The rain fell so hard it sounded like the sky itself was breaking apart, and inside the little roadside diner, Daniel Hayes sat across from a woman who looked like she had crawled out of a storm that had tried its best to swallow her whole. Her clothes were torn, her hair soaked, her hands trembling as she tried to hold the sandwich he gently pushed toward her. For a moment, he wondered how a person could look both broken and brave at the same time. She didn't speak, only cried silently as he encouraged her to eat, the pain on her face deeper than the rain outside. And somehow, in that moment, Daniel, who had very little himself, knew he couldn't let a stranger drown alone in her sorrow. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping someone when no one else will, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. It helps us bring more stories like this to you. Daniel Hayes, a 33-year-old single father, was no stranger to storms. Ever since his wife passed away 3 years earlier, grief had been his daily companion. He worked long shifts at a local warehouse and spent the rest of his time caring for his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, who brought light into a world that often felt too heavy. Money was tight, and worry rarely left his mind. But Daniel had a rule he lived by, one his late wife taught him: if you can help someone without breaking yourself, you should. That day, as he saw the soaked, crying woman outside the diner window, the rule echoed loudly inside him. He had invited her in without thinking twice. She hesitated at first, her eyes darting between the door and the floor like she didn't believe she deserved warmth or food. When she finally sat, her tears mixed with the raindrops sliding down her cheeks. Daniel didn't pry, didn't push, didn't ask for explanations. He simply ordered her a warm meal and gave her the quiet safety of being seen without judgment. For him, kindness didn't need a reason. The woman barely spoke. All Daniel managed to learn was her name, Mara, and that she'd lost everything. He didn't ask how. Pain was already telling its own story across her face, and he didn't need to hear more to know she was carrying something heavy. After she finished her meal, she thanked him with a cracked voice and disappeared back into the storm before he could offer more help. Daniel thought about her for days afterward, hoping she found shelter, hoping the world hadn't swallowed her whole. Weeks passed, and life returned to its steady struggle. Daniel worked overtime shifts to pay rent, stretched meals to make sure Lily never went hungry, and carried a kind of quiet exhaustion only single parents fully understood. He never expected to see Mara again, and certainly not in the way she returned. On a cold Thursday morning, when Daniel was preparing Lily's breakfast before school, a series of firm knocks echoed through the small house. Startled, he opened the door to find two sharply dressed lawyers standing on his worn-out porch. For a split second, fear rushed through him. Lawyers never showed up with good news, especially not at the door of someone who barely made ends meet. He braced himself, wondering if something terrible had happened or if some forgotten bill had come back to haunt him. But then one of the lawyers spoke the name that froze Daniel's breath. Mara Livingston. Daniel blinked. Livingston. A name he had heard before, a name connected to wealth, old money, and influence so high that most people never crossed paths with it. Surely, they didn't mean that Livingston. The lawyer continued speaking, explaining that Mara had been found after weeks of being off the grid, and that she had been in the middle of a legal battle regarding her late parents' estate, a vast fortune she had nearly walked away from after falling into a deep depression caused by betrayal and loss. She had disappeared from her privileged world, choosing the streets over the suffocating expectations and vultures clawing for her inheritance. But in her darkest moment, she met him. She told her lawyers that a single father with kind eyes and worn hands had saved her from giving up. She said his kindness felt like a lighthouse in the middle of a storm, and that she wanted to repay him in a way that truly mattered. Daniel stood frozen as the lawyers handed him a thick envelope. Inside were legal papers stating that Mara had set up a trust fund for Lily's future, education fully covered, living support provided, every detail carefully arranged. And for Daniel, she arranged stable employment in her family foundation's community outreach program, better pay, benefits he had never dreamed of, and hours that allowed him to be present for Lily. She had written a letter, too. In it, she explained that his simple act of feeding her gave her the strength to reclaim her life, to confront her past, and to start again. She said he reminded her of the goodness she'd forgotten the world still had. Daniel's hands trembled as he read her words. He didn't help her for anything in return, he barely even knew her. But life had a way of circling back, of returning what you gave when you least expected it. He didn't realize he was crying until Lily wrapped her small arms around him, asking if everything was okay. He nodded, holding her close, overwhelmed by the strange mix of disbelief and gratitude. In that moment, he understood something profound. You never know how far a small act of kindness can reach, or how deeply it can change someone's life, including your own. Later that week, Mara visited them in person. She looked healthier, steadier, with a quiet glow that hadn't existed in the diner that rainy day. She thanked Daniel again, not with grand gestures but with genuine emotion, telling him that he had given her hope when she had none. And as she spent time with Lily, laughing softly and sharing stories, Daniel realized that some people entered your life like storms, but others returned like sunlight. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes so more people can experience stories of hope and humanity. Before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever helped a stranger and felt the world change, even just a little?